All right, we are back here on SportsLine. Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. And I threw it out there. Where do you put LeBron James now? What do you make of this series? The way the Cavs came back, were you rooting for them with that 3-1? Where's LeBron fit all time now? 3 titles, 2 different teams. And I guess one more question for you, real quick. Where do the Warriors fit? You can talk about the Cavs and getting their first title in 52 years. You can talk about LeBron and sort of stating claim that he is still very much the best player on the planet and getting that 3rd title. But what about the Warriors? It was a foregone conclusion after 73 wins that they were going to win the title again and go back-to-back. Now they didn't. So how do you rate this team? Where do they go historically? Are they a historic team, or are they simply just the 2nd best team this year? How do you view that? Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. Let's begin tonight with Dan. Dan, how are you? Welcome to SportsLine.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing well.
Okay?
Yeah, hey, Dan.
Hey, all right. Just a couple of things. I love all your opening points. If I can just run down a couple real quick.
Sure.
Kevin Love, give me your opinion from Game 1 to Game 7.
He's a weird guy, isn't he? Here's my only thing. At the end of the day, when you looked at the Cavs last night, he was a plus 19 when he was on the floor. They were outscored by 15 when he wasn't. And so we can talk about the stat line and how he's not doing the same things in Cleveland that he did when he was in Minnesota. Obviously, he's on a much better team. But at the end of the day, at the end of this series, when the Cavs took over and won the final 3 games, they were a better team in terms of points versus the other team. And that's ultimately what the game's all about when Kevin Love was on the floor.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll cover these little points I have written down here real quick. Tristan Thompson, I don't believe that he's been given enough credit for how his play, only sporadically, to me, I thought was extremely valuable. Of course, in Game 7, but even especially in Game 3 too. I just thought that he was fantastic. I want to talk about the Warriors just a little bit, and then I'll end with LeBron. I don't know. You would know much more than me. Anybody on the block next year for the Warriors, free agents?
I don't know off the top of my head. Most of that group, at least the key pieces, are locked up. Like Draymond and Steph and Klay are locked up for a little while. So it's other... Yeah, Iguodala is an interesting one. I'd have to look it up to know for sure. But, you know, the core of that group is back.
Yeah, of course. Now, do you think that the Warriors were actually – I don't know. I kind of got the feeling that the Warriors were tired. But in some ways, I wonder if they just were a little bit cocky. I don't know. I mean, they're young, they're brash, 73 win. I mean, come on. I mean, they had the right to be, and I respect that. But when you run into a LeBron James-led team, I thought that possibly might have led to their downfall.
You may be right. They kind of poked the bear a little bit after those first 2 games of the series, and then even after Game 4 when they won so easily in Cleveland. And poked LeBron, exactly. And you're right. I don't think you want to do that because he is so good. This is a team that I think they're shocked. I think they thought the way the season went that they were the best team. They were the defending champs. They won 73 games. Even in that Oklahoma City series, I think they thought that was their toughest test because they'd have such success against the Cavaliers going back a full year to last year's finals. I think they thought when they came back from 3-1 down against Oklahoma City, they were winning the title, and it was going to be not a cakewalk, but it was going to be an easier series. And then when they get up 3-1 in the finals, I don't know if they took their foot off the gas exactly, but maybe there was some level of let up there from the Warriors, and the Cavaliers obviously made them pay.
Last 2 things real quick.
Sure.
Number 1, Klay Thompson should not look at LeBron James and turn around and say this is a man's game. I don't think that was a wise thing to do. And the last thing, and your point you've been trying to raise, LeBron James has never, ever, ever played better than he played in the last 3 games, ever in his career. I don't think he ever will play better. Is that possible? Look how he turned around and took this team. He dominated the Golden State Warriors. He didn't dominate just one player.
Yep.
He dominated the whole team and took the Cleveland Cavaliers on his back.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We appreciate the call, Dan. That's great points. The thing I thought, and I said this early on in the series, we haven't had a SportsLine for a while live, so I don't know if I was on this program when I did it. But if you remember back last year when Love was hurt and Kyrie was hurt in the finals, LeBron was insane. I mean, he was absolutely off the charts good in that series. And it wasn't good enough because it was just him against this great Warriors team. And then early on in this series, he wasn't quite on that level. And I remember saying, everybody wondered last year, would it make a difference if you had Kyrie and if you had Love with LeBron? How would that have changed the series? And now we're seeing it. For the Cavs to win, they needed LeBron at what he was doing last year, and they needed Kyrie and Love and that team back. We didn't see that early on in the series when they got down. When their backs got against the wall, we saw it again. LeBron was as good in these final 3 games, if not better, than he was during the final series last year when he had to do it all by himself. And he got the supporting crew. Kyrie Irving, 41 points in Game 5, hit the huge shot last night. Kevin Love, obviously, with contributions. Tristan Thompson has a great point. What's his line? He says, know your role, love your role, or something like that. That's exactly right. He's not a superstar, but he is a star in his role on this Cavaliers team. And because of that, it's now truly a team. It's not just LeBron, as great as he is. There's other pieces there. And they play in the right way. And credit to Ty Lue, too. I didn't like it when they fired David Blatt. I thought he did a better job than he was given credit for in a year and a half trying to pull all these pieces together. But it's hard to argue that Ty Lue did not have the attention of that locker room and do a better job of getting Kyrie and LeBron to play together and get this team ultimately to play its best basketball when it mattered the most. And now they're NBA champions. So kudos to Dan Gilbert. Kudos to Ty Lue and LeBron because they all made that happen, and it certainly paid off for them at the end. Good evening, Leon. You're next up. How are you?
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Doing great.
Well, let me just say that if you had a Mount Rushmore, of NBA stars, if you just look at skill set and look at everybody's skill set, I think it should be Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and LeBron James, followed by Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Because when those 4 players had an unreal skill set where they were good at a lot of different things. They just didn't specialize in one area. So those 4, they're the Mount Rushmore to me. And when you look at the Warriors, I mean, they just weren't the better team. And if you notice, Steph Curry, he's not very durable. I think injuries are going to play a prime part in his career, unfortunately, as he stays in the league. But anyway, I'll just be quiet and just get your feedback, Steve.
All right, Leon, I appreciate that as always. I think, unfortunately, you're right. Steph has battled some injuries, obviously, with the ankle, and they're not going to say it overtly, I don't think, but I don't think Steph ever got right. After the knee injury early on in round 1 of these playoffs, I don't think he was ever 100%. I don't think he attacked the basket with the abandon that he did when he was healthy, and because of that, you saw him settling. And he's not a bad guy to settle for jump shots because most of the time they're going in. But in this series, with the physical play of defending him, I think he wore down. And I think he settled for a lot of those shots. And you combine tired legs, maybe a bad knee, and the pressure of it all, and you get a shooting performance like last night where he's 6 of 19 in Game 7. And that isn't going to get it done when you're going up against LeBron, playing the way LeBron played in the final 3 games of this series. So I think you do have to worry about that. I love the Mount Rushmore. I love the idea of the Mount Rushmore. We can take more of those. I think I would disagree if I had to look right there. I'm certainly okay with MJ and LeBron because to me they're 1-2 in that order for me right now. I think I'm good with Magic being up there. I do think this title puts LeBron in front of Magic in my mind. But I'm okay with Magic being on the Mount Rushmore. I think if it's me over Kobe, we're just talking me here, instead of Kobe, I think I'd go back and probably do a guy like Russell, who won so many titles and changed the game early on in the NBA in terms of his points and rebounds and the way he impacted the game, and won a bunch. I think I'd go back that far, but that's the thing with these is there's a lot of guys to put in the mix, and you can make arguments for all of them. But I think the thing now about LeBron that sets him apart is his unbelievable skill set. Again, he led all players in the NBA Finals, biggest stage, in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Is there any other player in the history of the game that could do that at any time, let alone on the biggest stage in the finals? So I think his all-around game and just his physical presence, I mean, 6'8", 260 or whatever he is, that's something we just haven't seen. And then to have that skill set along with it, and now he's winning. And now he's gotten there 8 times. He's won 3. He's done it in 2 different places. He's done it in Cleveland, which people wanted to see because of the story and because of the franchise and their ineptitude until he got there and then came back. To me, I think he's starting to set himself apart. I don't know. He hasn't caught Jordan yet to me because Jordan was perfect on that stage. But everybody else, I don't know. Maybe looking at taillights in terms of legacies when it comes to LeBron James now. Let's go to Tyrell. Tyrell, good evening. You're next up here on SportsLine. Hello, Tyrell. Tyrell, we'll see if we can get you back here. Let's go to Tony. Tony, good evening. You're next up here on SportsLine.
Okay, thank you. On a few comments.
Sure.
LeBron is the only one. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's the only one to bring the championship home to his home state. Magic Johnson them didn't do that, and Michael Jordan them didn't do that, and none of those people you named have ever brought it back to the home state. And I see a lot of these people here in Tennessee, for some reason, didn't give the coverage like they should have, like they do the Titans and all like that. But I think Cleveland is a fantastic team, and they was underdog, just like the Giants was against New England in the Super Bowl, and they came back and took them down to there. Now, LeBron, he got knocked down, beat up, and everything you want to say. Michael Jordan never got beat up like that. He would just touch him with your hand and it's a foul.
You don't think the Knicks ever beat Michael Jordan up in one of those series?
No, I don't think he never got beat up like this. He never got hit upside the head, knocked down in the head, hit in the eye. He cursed out and got called all these names. Michael Jordan called names of other players.
Yeah, I think Charles Oakley and Charles Barkley and several guys like that did plenty of things like that to MJ too back in the day.
Yeah, but I think he's the first one to bring it back to his home state. People won't give the man credit. I mean, the experience go a long way. This man had a lot of experience, and they underestimated this man to bring his team in there like that. And Michael Jordan, then when they got ready to go to another team, him and Pippen them, they were flunkies. They couldn't do nothing. Even Jordan on the other team, he can't do nothing with another team he owns now. So people don't give LeBron the credit he's got coming.
Oh, I appreciate the call, Tony. I think that's good stuff. I don't know. I mean, LeBron deserves all the credit in the world, and that's what I've been trying to talk about. What he does is unbelievable. But I also think you talk about being the first guy to bring it to his home state. Those other guys didn't get drafted by their home state teams. You know, Magic went to L.A., Michael went to Chicago. Some people will get mad at LeBron for the fact that he bolted on Cleveland for a time in his career to go to Miami to win a title, or as he says, to learn that culture and to win a title there. I think ultimately he made it right, came back, and now he's winning here, and I would imagine is planning on staying the rest of his career in Cleveland at home and hopefully bringing more of these titles back to the people of Cleveland. But the statement about the other guys, they never had the opportunity. I mean, MJ would have had to have gone to the Hornets during his time, and once he was in Chicago, he didn't do that. When he left, he went to the Wizards after retiring And I don't think we can talk about MJ 2000, 2001 or MJ as an owner and take away from what MJ in his prime was. And same thing for some of the other guys who won where they won. That's not a knock on them. That's just where they won. And there was a time when players weren't as mobile as they were now. I mean, there's some people who will allege that LeBron and Dwayne and Chris Bosh essentially colluded in free agency back when they did in 2011 or 10 to go to Miami and to try to build that dynasty down there. And they got 2 titles out of it, and that is the day and age we are in sports. But there was a time when people didn't really leave in free agency, and they certainly didn't go to the Olympics and sit there and collude with people on trying to put together a super team. So that's the difference in the eras, and that's why it's always difficult to compare there. But I do think LeBron's resume now puts him on a different plateau than a lot of those guys that are in that upper tier because of how often he's gotten there. Now how many times he's won. 2 different places in his hometown. And the overall game that he brings to the table is just something else. Let's go to Billy. Billy, good evening. You're next up here on SportsLine.
Yeah.
Hey, Billy, you're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know your opinion on just your perception on the NBA today and how it was before. Because it just seems like to me these days when you have this like idol and you get everybody going for like I'll say in a sense where it's only one idol when there's plenty more.
You there, Billy?
Yeah. Did you hear me?
Yeah. What era are you specifically comparing? You talking like the MJ era or the 80s?
I mean, just like from 60s on up.
Okay. Look, I think this is a good debate that we could have several nights on probably because there's such a rich history in the NBA, and we appreciate the call, Billy. The thing to me that I'll almost say universally across sports is sports are constantly getting better because guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster, all of that. And that is in every sport. You talk about the NFL. The NFL is a better game today than it was 20 years ago, and it's a better game than it was 40 years ago. You talk about Major League Baseball. It's a better game today. You got guys on every team throwing 98 miles an hour. Every team. Multiple guys doing that. That would have been the fastest guy in the majors 15, 20 years ago in most cases. That's just the way sports evolve. And I think that's the case in the NBA. If you look back to the days of old, you go back to some of the 50s and 60s videos, it was an interesting brand of basketball. It was a competitive brand of basketball, but it's not the athletic specimens that you see today. Could you imagine LeBron playing in that era? I think the real comparison you get to is when you start talking about the Showtime Lakers against the Celtics, and you talk about MJ and the Bulls or the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe in the early 2000s. Those start to be better comparisons to this era because those were great teams. The one thing I'll say in that era, I don't know if there was the depth of talent throughout the entire league, but the depth of really good teams at the top was pretty special. I mean, when you think about it, when MJ broke into the league, MJ had to go against the back end of those Showtime Lakers. He had to go against the Celtics and Bird. He had to go against the Pistons with Lambeer and Dumars and all of those guys up in Detroit. You had that Indiana team with Reggie and Rick Smits and several guys there. You had the Knicks that were just kind of the bad boys that truly did rough them up when they played in that series. And that was obviously the Lakers in the West, but most of those teams were in the East. They had to go through 2 of those teams every year basically just to get to the finals to face the Lakers, to face the Sonics, to face the Blazers or the Suns or the Jazz. There were a lot of good teams in the NBA in that era. I don't think you have that now. I think you got 4 teams probably. I think there are 4 teams that could have won the title this year. The Warriors, the Cavs, the Thunder, and probably the Spurs. Those 4 teams, if they played right, I think they could have won the title. But that's it. Nobody else in the league could have won the title. And so I think that does change things a little bit. It makes it a little less of a grind, maybe, than it was during that era. But at the same time, the athletes, the game, it's darn good at this point. So, again, it's a debate we can have and we can continue to have here on the program. Phone lines are open, 737-7767. Don't know if we'll come to a definitive answer on that one, though, because it is just so hard to compare. How do you compare what LeBron has done from 2005 on to these other dynasties or really great players that essentially all played, with the exception of Kobe, prior to that? All right, we got to take a break. We are running behind. We will get back to your phone calls after this, and some lines still open. 737-7767. Call us up. You're watching SportsLine here on News Channel 5+.